I will welcome everyone to Prince Albert, and before I get started, I would just make a couple of introductions here for those that are in attendance locally here in the city of Prince Albert. But first, we have our mayor in attendance, and it's great for us to be back in Prince Albert. We've been here a number of times, whether it be to look at the hospital construction, to look at the construction of the recreation facility, to celebrate and announce some significant investment in the private sector and the forestry industry alongside a number of Indigenous communities, all having a positive impact not only on this city but the region, and I would say the northern areas of our province. And so welcome to Mayor Dion, who is here today. We have a number of candidates, Saskatchewan Party candidates, that are in attendance with us here today. First, our two candidates from the city of Prince Albert. We have Kevin Kassoon from Prince Albert Carleton constituency, Alana Ross from Prince Albert Northcote constituency. Darlene Roden is here from Batoche constituency, Eric Schmaltz from Saskatchewan Rivers, and Terry Brom from Carrot River Valley with us, and welcome to each and every one of you. Everyone deserves to feel safe in their neighborhood, wherever you may live in this province. You deserve to feel safe. You and your family deserve to feel safe in your neighborhood, in your home, and in the business where you may work or may own. And you should be able to walk down the street in your community, go shopping at the mall, or play with your children or grandchildren at the local playground without fear or worry, without any fear or worry. And earlier this fall, we had announced our commitment to safety in our communities through our Safer Communities and Neighborhood Plan. What that included was the addition of 100 more municipal police officers in the 7 communities across Saskatchewan that utilize municipal police forces, including 17 here in the community of Prince Albert. We doubled the number of SCAN officers, or Safer Community and Neighborhood officers, from 14 to 28. Since 2011, we have added 192 RCMP officers into Saskatchewan communities. Today and previous today to the writ, we had committed to funding an additional 180 RCMP officers on top of those 192 that have been added. Another 180 officers being added into Saskatchewan communities. And on top of all of those investments and commitments is, of course, the 70 provincial marshals that will arrive, be based out of Prince Albert, but will be there to support our police forces, whether it be the RCMP or municipal police forces across Saskatchewan. All told, this is over 500 additional police officers that are being added to enforcement in Saskatchewan communities, but been added to provide that very community safety that we desire. In addition to that, there has been the addition of the Warrant Intelligence Team to track down any large offenders that may be present in our province, and of course the Provincial and Protection Response Team, which is 258 armed officers who help us in the response to times and provide increased police presence, in particular an increased police presence in many of our rural communities. We know that an increased police presence and assistance, that helps to keep our neighborhood safe. Helps keep each and every one of our neighborhoods safe. In many cases, presence is prevention. While we need more police officers and we need them in the right places, we also need the right laws. And we need the opportunity to be able to strengthen the laws that we have. And that's why a re-elected Saskatchewan Party government is going to strengthen the Safer Communities and Neighbourhoods Act, or the piece of legislation that we have as a province, as well as any other pieces of legislation, so that we're able to address issues like public intoxication, vandalism, loitering, and nuisance properties that are in our communities. An example of one of these measures is allowing businesses to designate the police force to have the authority to access their properties at any point in time. And this allows police to remove unwanted individuals that may be looking to cause harm to a property or to a person, to remove them from that property without having to contact the owner and receive their permission to do so. The Moose Jaw Police Force has recently started a pilot project with their downtown businesses to undertake this new enforcement measure, and I would say that it is working and working quite well. Over the past number of years, it's been very apparent that much of the increase in crime in our communities, our province, and I would dare say our nation and our continent, stems from drugs. And while we will continue to work to get the scourge of drugs off our streets and out of the hands of our friends and family and our community members, we also need to ensure that we're doing the proper work to get the drug dealers out of our communities. We know that any plan to fight crime must also include options for individuals. All too often in our communities, it's our friends and our family members, but options for individuals to break free from addictions, recovery options. Those individuals who have fallen into a life of addictions, they need care and they need our support. These are individuals that we know, as I say, the drugs that are present today are no longer a community away. They are in our community and they are impacting our friends and all too often our family. And they need and they deserve the opportunity to access a recovery space. And that's why our government is taking a very coordinated approach. It's not just about policing, it's not just about enforcement, it's about providing those recovery opportunities. And we have made significant investments in addition to these 500 police officers since 2011, like 500 additional recovery beds and options which is a very real option for those that have, unfortunately, maybe have entered a life of addictions and are looking to make a change. We've created complex needs shelters, emergency shelters in both Regina and Saskatoon, and these are not the temporary shelters that we're also looking at working with municipalities on, but a very different type of service. Police are now able to take people to a medically supported but also a secure facility. Those who pose a danger to themselves or may pose a danger to someone else are then given treatment options in that facility. And to date, and that is what is very much a pilot program, we've seen nearly 400 people that have accessed those services in those complex needs shelters in both Saskatoon and Regina. And I'm happy to report that over 95% of them have taken the option to be referred to addiction services. This is people that are reaching out to help themselves when given the opportunity. We have new urgent care centers in Regina and very shortly in Saskatoon with a partnership with the Takakukri Developments. That part of that service is offering that very specialized access for that needed care for people that may need help with a mental health challenge that they're having, a mental health crisis that they're having, or unfortunately may have entered a life of addictions and are ready to make a change. We are able, through that intake and that access point, to take them by the hand and provide them with the services, the medical health professionals that can support them in their road to recovery. People in Saskatchewan on October the 28th, they have a choice. People have a choice this election. They have a choice between the NDP, who will make it easier for our friends and family to access drugs, and make it harder for our friends and family to access recovery treatment. Or you have a Saskatchewan Party who are making it easier to get treatment and harder to get drugs. Between the NDP, who prioritize decriminalization and safe supply and will make it easier to access the illegal and illicit drugs that are in our community today. Or you have the Saskatchewan Party, who believe that the words safe and supply should not even be in the same sentence, let alone the same conversation. A choice between the NDP, who will cut the numbers of police officers that we have in our community, of which they are committed to, by cutting the Saskatchewan Marshals Service, and provide you then with a doorbell camera that isn't even uncosted, so not even the doorbell camera is uncosted, and so not even the doorbell camera is real. You have the Saskatchewan Party, who is already committed to providing, since 2011, over 500 additional police officers in our Saskatchewan communities, including right here in Prince Albert. Better laws, more police officers, and better access to treatment and better access to recovery. That's the Saskatchewan Party's plan for safer communities and safer neighborhoods for you and for myself and for every family that lives in this province. Now, we have, as I said, a multi-planned approach when it comes to creating that safer communities and neighborhoods. And part and foremost of that plan is the recovery capacity and the access to those recovery beds in this province and the mental health supports that are being provided. But part of that is also enforcement. And we have our Minister of Mental Health and Addictions, who will speak quickly to the recovery capacity and access that we have. Our Minister of Policing will speak to the commitment that this government had and this party has moving forward to enforcing and keeping our streets and our neighborhoods safe. And our Minister of Justice will also speak to the opportunities that we have to enhance the laws that we have both provincially and federally, and provincially and municipally, but also advocate for changes to the Criminal Code of Canada to ensure that we are keeping our communities safe, but also offering, and the focus of this is offering those recovery opportunities for people that live in our towns, villages, and cities, people that are all too often have succumbed to mental health challenges and addictions challenges and are looking to make a change. Tim, I'll turn it over to you first, and then to Paul, and then to Bronwyn.
Well, thank you very much, Premier. As the Premier mentioned, we have a very ambitious action plan on mental health and addictions that was unveiled a little over a year ago. That action plan has 3 pillars to it. The first pillar is to more than double the number of addiction treatment spaces that we offer in Saskatchewan, adding 500 addiction treatment spaces across the geography of the province, but as well as adding them across the continuum of care, making sure that we're catching individuals at the front end of addiction, if that's where they need the service, or transitioning them right through the entire continuum of care. The second pillar of that plan is to improve the system itself, to improve access to those spaces, making it easier for people who are battling addiction to connect with the services that they need. And the third and probably most critical pillar is to transition to a recovery-oriented system of care. What that means is what we are doing within the addictions treatment spaces is wrapping supports around individuals, not just treating the addiction, but treating the individual in a holistic manner, finding out what is the source of the addiction, treating the underlying trauma. Are they housing insecure? We can get them into supportive housing and transition them back into our communities so that they can live safe, healthy lives in recovery.
Paul?
Thank you very much, Premier. And just to build on what Premier has said, we need those police officers out there to be the first point of contact when somebody is struggling on our streets, in our communities, or in our parks. That's why we've created more positions for municipal policing. 100 across every municipality that has a police force will have an increase in policing. That's why we've added in 180 RCMP officers. We've written the federal government. We're awaiting their response to be able to fund these officers, as we have a contractual agreement with them that we fund 70% and they fund for 30%. Our money's on the table. We need the federal government to step up and be able to fund these RCMP officers in our province and across Canada. On top of that, that's going to be seated right here in Prince Albert, is our Marshal Service, which we have a very good support for across our province. People understand that the Marshals are here to support the RCMP, support the municipal policing, support our First Nation policing, to make sure that they have the resources that they need. So the police are that first point of contact. They have to decide whether the individual will go into an emergency secured shelter, whether they need to go to the emergency room, whether they need to go to just a shelter, or are there other options for that individual, and maybe they do need to go into cells. But how can we integrate as a police service into what Tim McLeod is talking about and getting people out of that cycle of dependency? So it's critically important, as the Premier identified. I think people in Saskatchewan would rather see a police car rolling down their street and patrolling in their neighborhood than a doorbell cam sitting on their front porch. We need to see the police officers. We need to feel safe in our communities, and we will continue to bring more police officers into our communities so we can help people that need some help.
Thank you. So obviously our goal is to do everything we can to empower police and keep communities and businesses safe, and we are going to make changes to legislation and regulation if we form government in 3 main areas. Under the Safer Communities and Neighbourhoods Act, we are going to address vacant and abandoned properties where there is repeated break and entering, repeated squatting, where we're seeing gang activity, trafficking activity, and gang activity. And we are going to make it easier to issue community safety orders to address those properties, and to, in some cases, make it easier to expropriate and demolish those vacant, abandoned properties. We're also going to be looking at broader trespass in the sense that if you're engaging in dangerous or disorderly behavior in a mall, for example, a swimming pool, or a cinema, and you're intimidating people, you're harassing people, you are verbally abusing people, especially if it's repeated behavior, the default implication is going to be that you are not welcome, that you are not there with the consent of the business owner, and can be removed. And this really will establish and clarify specific baseline behavior that won't be tolerated in those public areas. And we are also going to look at enhancing agency. So as the Premier mentioned, police can in some cases get permission from business owners to remove loiterers, trespassers, those who are defacing property, engaging in disorderly or dangerous behavior from their businesses, from that private business space, particularly outside business hours, through agency. So a business will identify the police as someone who can deal with these issues and act on their behalf. And we really want to harmonize that and centralize the system so that it's the active across the province, working with business and police enforcement to do that, so that business owners are aware that they can do this, and to really harmonize those efforts to protect them and keep their businesses safe.
What you're seeing by the Saskatchewan Party committing into the future is essentially an all of the above approach. 500 more police officers, 500 more recovery beds, and ensuring that we have the laws, whether they be municipal, provincial, or advocate at the federal level for the laws to keep our communities and our neighborhoods safe. A Saskatchewan Party that will offer more cops, will offer more laws, and more opportunities for recovery, versus an NDP party that will offer less cops and is going to cut the amount of police officers in our community. We'll be looking to legalize drugs like they have in other provinces, and will diminish or lessen the recovery opportunities that we have for our friends and for our family member, but they'll buy a doorbell camera. Any questions? Yes.
On to the PA now. I know you're meeting with business owners this afternoon. There's a lot of frustration from business owners in the PA that we've talked to. I'm sure it's the same for Saskatoon and Regina. Repeat offenders, catch and release, you've heard that term lots. On their properties, loitering, like you said. What's the message out to them to make them feel safer and say, we're going to be the ones here to help you?
Well, I would turn this over to Bronwyn Eyre and to Paul Merriman to just talk a little bit about what is in these commitments and where we have gotten to today in the way of enforcement. But ultimately what you're alluding to is the Criminal Code of Canada, which is not the Criminal Code of Saskatchewan. However, if we move forward, we understand that if we have the honor of forming government on behalf of Saskatchewan people, that we need to govern and control what we can control, which is not the Criminal Code of Canada, but there is advocacy opportunities there that Bronwyn Eyre can speak to. But she can also speak to some of the changes that are committed to today in the Safer Communities and Neighbourhoods Act that will allow not only the provincial government to have a larger role to play in ensuring that our communities are safe, but working closely with municipalities as well, opening up some opportunities for municipal bylaws that would be specific to that community, which will help move people along maybe to a recovery bed. And so if we can agree on this, that often the drugs that are impacting people and causing them to be in the streets of our communities, those streets are the most vulnerable place for people to be. And so we need to make the best place for them to be a recovery bed here in the province of Saskatchewan, and need to do everything that we can to move them to that space. So on the Criminal Code of Canada versus what we can do provincially, Bronwyn, and then just kind of reiterating our commitment to the enforcement piece, Paul.
Absolutely. So catch and release is basically embedded now as the default position under the criminal code by the federal government. And the premiers across Canada, the justice ministers across Canada have raised the alarm for a number of years now to say that default catch and release, which we're seeing with bail, has got to stop. There are some changes that have been made. They are small steps, they are important steps, but they are initial steps. And the federal government has to do more to right the balance. We know that bail and catch and release is leading to increased crime by repeat offenders. We see it, we know it, it's got to change. I think one of the interesting things that I've heard in recent weeks from the federal side is, but it's up to provinces to provide us with data to show us somehow what we already know. And what I find interesting about that is what I've learned is that the federal government accepts only limited data. So really they accept data about what they want to hear and see and read about bail. And I think one of the jobs of the province and provinces is to make sure that we have a very fulsome picture. And if the federal government is asking for data, we'll give them data, but we'll give them all the data. And that's something that we have to undertake in the next few months. And if that's what it takes, and that's one of the things that it takes to get change, we'll do it. But that is a federal thing, and there has to be action.
Yeah, and I think just on the policing side, adding in 70 marshals, which again, the opposition, the NDP want to cancel outright, not have more police officers in the community of Prince Albert and across not just northern Saskatchewan, but throughout the whole province. We've committed to bring in 16 additional officers just into this community alone. Businesses, they have security out there. Most businesses in the communities, and certainly in Prince Albert and in Saskatoon, my home community, they have security out there. That's not stopping the problem. What's going to stop the problem is when you have a police officer come to that facility, when you have more boots on the ground, when you're actively engaging people, not just on the criminal activity, but also on the recovery side of things. You have to make sure that those police officers are out there. What we are doing is not in isolation. This isn't something that we thought of just in Regina. This was in monthly discussions with the Saskatchewan Association of Chiefs of Police. They want more officers. They want the expanded bylaws from Brown is talking about. This is what they are asking for as the Chiefs of Police of Saskatchewan, all of them. The executive is asking us for this, and we've been able to provide this with direct consultation with them. So I think it's critically important that the Chiefs of Police are involved in this. They know what's happening in their community, and our job is to be able to support them.
So I would say to that business owner, there's 3 points, and on the choice that they and the customers and their staff have on October the 28th. The choice between the Saskatchewan Party and NDP really boils down to, do you want a safer community and neighborhood for your home and for your business? And the first is, which party is going to deliver more recovery opportunities? It's this party that will deliver more recovery beds available to more people in the province of Saskatchewan versus the NDP. This party, the Saskatchewan Party, is going to invest in over 500 police officers across this province. It's the NDP that have said they'll cut the Saskatchewan Marshals Service and try to buy a doorbell camera. So that's the second point. The third point would be it's this party that is committed to increasing the opportunity that we have to enforce laws to keep our community safe and working with municipalities and, yes, the federal government on the Criminal Code of Canada versus the NDP that are looking to legalize drugs and to make safe injection sites more of a commonplace funded by the province. That is not the position of this party. As I said, safe and supply, they just shouldn't be used in the same sense. What we need to do is provide more recovery opportunities, more enforcement, and better laws to enforce.
The measure that was taken in Lucia, why was it successful? Like, was there less crimes against businesses in the city, and why we are sending it outside the city?
Right, Bronwyn, you have a comment. Really what it does is speed up the opportunity for enforcement, I think, for the local police service.
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
The Moose Jaw example.
Oh, the Moose Jaw example. Yes, so that's an area where, for example, the agency system has been used. And so businesses have enabled police to act as their agents to address disruptive, dangerous behavior, loitering, defacing and damage of property and so on, and to deal with that outside, usually outside office hours, so the police don't have to get a business owner's permission to go in. And so they basically can work together to solve this. And there have been a number of cities where this is working very well. Edmonton is another one. So we really want to take the Moose Jaw model and make sure that we're working with police across the province, working with business owners across the province to enable that agency and have it very, standardized and well awareness raised.
So business owners said it was a great measure for them in Lucia.
It's been a positive development, absolutely. And it enables businesses to have that agency in place to deal with things, particularly when they're not there.
Just a follow-up question. So we talked a lot about chiefs of police. RCMP and both chiefs of police have said, why not just send all your money here? I mean, get it with the Marshals Service, give us all the funding, we can put the police officers on the streets, we're in the communities. Any further thought to that? We've also been hearing, like here in PA, that the Marshals Service is drawing officers away from our city police service in terms of, so we're actually losing resources.
Yeah, I think what you're hearing is specifically from one police organization, which is the Union of the RCMP, that is very vocally against the marshals. We've invested $20 million. We're going to invest $20 million into the marshal. On top of that, we're investing another $17 million into municipal policing, including the police college, including our scan officers. Then we have another $28 million into RCMP. So we are funding the RCMP and the municipal side. The challenge is on the municipal side is getting those officers in. That's why we've beefed up the police college. That's why we're strengthening the police college so they can double the amount of output. On the RCMP side of things, we don't actually have a handle in the recruitment side of things. We have a contractual agreement to pay 70% of the bill for the RCMP. So with the RCMP, we can fund those dollars, but we can't actually have a handle on the recruitment side of things. That's done out of Ottawa and out of Depot. As far as drawing down, talking to the Chief Marshal, we're making sure that we're not drawing down from a specific police force. There is, in Prince Albert, I believe there was one officer that was applied to the Marshal Service and was accepted into that. Mayor Dion came to me right away and said, we understand that. We want to support the Marshals. Can we get another spot in the police college to be able to bring in a new officer? Great innovative idea. How can we bring some more officers in? But we're making sure that we're not drawing down. We're drawing officers from Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, so we're trying to spread that out as much as we can so we're not drawing down from any specific police force.
I want to make a comment on this because this is an all of the above approach, and it starts with recovery opportunities and access. That is the most important, and that is the goal of the entirety of our conversation today, is to provide that opportunity for recovery for whomever might be having that mental health challenge, that addictions challenge, or has entered that life of crime. That's the goal. With that comes a significant commitment to enforcement, unlike I think you've ever seen in this province before. And my message to not so much the National Police Federation, but to each and every RCMP and municipal police officer in this province is this is a government that is going to invest in you. And we're taking an all-of-the-above approach. Since 2011, 192 additional RCMP officers in Saskatchewan. Now, a commitment to an additional 180 police officers, and we're waiting for the federal government sign-off and their 30% share. We expect that to happen, and we will be able to move forward with recruiting those additional officers that will service all of those communities across Saskatchewan that are kept safe today by the RCMP. In addition to that, 100 municipal police officers in those 7 communities, 17 here in the city. Those are all provincially funded. Unlike the other municipal police officers that are operating in our communities today, 14 scan officers on top of that, again, provincially funded. And so I would say this is a commitment unlike anything that we have seen in the province before. And you add to all of that 70 marshals that will be based out of Prince Albert, but will be here to support those municipal police officers in their community, including Prince Albert here, Saskatoon, Regina, Moose Jaw, and so on. They're going to be here to support in a big way our RCMP officers that are operating in many times rural and remote areas of this province. And so to the RCMP, the municipal officers, to our protective response team in this province, this investment is unlike any other investment, and it's here to support the work that you do in keeping Saskatchewan families, businesses, and communities safe. And this is a commitment that the Saskatchewan Party most certainly will deliver on if we have the honor to form government. Unlike the NDP, who are going to legalize drugs, are going to buy you a doorbell camera, and just simply do not have. We're going to cut the police officers that are there to keep us safe.
So the RCMP Union saying that the Marshal Service is an issue, there's no plan, there's no consultation from the government, and there's no support on the website.
Well, the Marshal Service is not going to work with the public sector union like the NPF on what the plan is on how we are policing moving forward. The Marshal Service is going to work with the RCMP and Rhonda Blackmore. Yep. So let's be clear about that. The public sector union, the NPF, is going to advocate on behalf of what they feel will, essentially make for more officers and more union dues, and let's be that callous about it. This is a government. The provincial government of Saskatchewan, I would say, has invested in our RCMP, additional officers since 2011, and additional officers moving forward. Unlike any other provincial government across this nation, I would ask them to put forward one other provincial government that has increased on a per capita or percentage basis the number of officers that Saskatchewan has since 2011. And so the RCMP most certainly is one of the most, if not the most important law enforcement agency that we have in this province, and they're supported by this government to a level that is unprecedented across Canada, as are our municipal police forces and the individuals that are keeping our larger centres safe. And they are going to be further supported by 70 provincial marshals police officers that will be able to arrive on force, 10, 20, 30, to have that presence and to make sure that our communities are safer and actually prevent crime in many cases. And so we may respectfully disagree with the position of the Public Sector Policing Union, but I think we can agree on this, that this government has and will continue to commit to invest in the RCMP officers and more RCMP officers to a degree that no other province is matched.
Can we expect your first platform on, before the debate on October 16th?
Yes,
Yes?
it'll be a good one too. Just like every other opportunity that we have to run in an election, you will see the Saskatchewan Party bring forward a fully costed platform. Again, a significant difference between us and the other party that can form government is the NDP, where they are missing $3 billion in their reckless endeavor to spend your dollars, taxpayer dollars, and an irresponsible platform that they have put forward. And, you know, I would ask again, and I would encourage the media to ask the opposition leader, the NDP leader, is, you know, how do you plan to fill that $3 billion hole that you have in your platform? And I would suggest that they don't have a plan to fill it because they don't intend on it. They're going to ask Saskatchewan people to fill it through higher taxes, through cancelling projects. Vic Hospital here, the Vic Hospital expansion, and the new Vic Hospital that we'll have in Prince Albert. That wouldn't be possible under an NDP government because they simply are not balancing the platform that they're putting forward.
A question from my colleague in Sask. If you member of the LGBTQ community say transphobic and homophobic rhetoric is on the rise in the province, how do you respond to that, and why haven't we seen a mention on your platform?
I would say that the position of this government has been clear when it comes to being inclusive and to be supportive of everyone. And everyone deserves a safe place, whether it be in the community or whether it be in their school. And that is precisely what we're talking about today, is ensuring that the laws of Canada and the laws of Saskatchewan and the laws, the bylaws in our communities, the municipal bylaws or our community bylaws, are enforced by having more police officers and more opportunity for people to aspire and to achieve all that they should. Much discussion recently about, you know, being supportive and bringing families into supporting children in our classrooms with the introduction and passing of Bill 137. It's this government's view that parents should be involved in their children's education. It's this government's view that they have a right to be involved in the classes that their children should choose. They have a right to be involved in the decisions that a 6 or 8 or 9-year-old child would make in those schools. And when one school division made put forward a different policy, we had standardized that policy across the province, and now that is enacted in law through the Parental Bill of Rights. This is a significant choice in this election as well, as you have an NDP party that would remove Bill 137, would remove the rights that parents have to be involved in their children's education and to be involved in their children's lives, and would essentially create an environment where a teacher could keep secrets from parents, about their child. We just don't think that's proper. And so this is a significant difference, a non-financial investment difference between the Saskatchewan Party that believes parents have a right to be involved in their children's education and their children's life versus an NDP party that would create an environment where parents would be kept out and the teachers could keep secrets from those very parents about their children.
For Bill 137, there's also an issue for a lot of parents on the other side.
There's no sides. We're all on the child's side. And we're all on the family being involved in that child's life side. Mm-hmm. That's why it's labeled the Parental Bill of Rights. There's no sides in raising a child. It takes a village, but it's certainly, you know, teachers are not parents. They are teachers. They are there to educate our children, and we are going to ensure that parents have a right to be involved in their children's life. And so when it comes to a discussion about how we raise our children as a society, as a community, as a province, as parents and families, there are no sides. We're all on the child's side.
PA is looking looking like it could be a little bit of a competitive area with 2 ridings and one leaning, early poll day I showed, one leaning towards the NDP, one towards the Sask Party. I'm just curious, what, if elected, what's the Sask Party going to do to prioritize the people?
Well, first I would say there is a politician from Prince Albert, a federal politician from years ago. He actually went on to become the Prime Minister, and his last name was Diefenbaker. He had some very good advice as to where to put the polls in the lead up to an election, and that was the bottom of the dog cage. And that's where they should go to this day. There is a poll coming up on October the 28th where Saskatchewan people are going to have a choice, and I would say the people of Prince Albert and surrounding area are going to have a choice as well. And what you can expect in Prince Albert and what you can expect more broadly across this province is more of what you have seen. A party, a Saskatchewan party that is entirely focused on attracting investment so that we are able to grow our economy, so that we can create that brighter future for not only those that are living here today, but for that next generation. Those that may move here from other parts of the world, but most importantly, our children. Whether you're a first-generation Canadian or like myself or our family has moved here a number of generations ago, or you're an Indigenous person living in Saskatchewan. What we are focused on doing is creating that environment for opportunity for everyone. And opportunity, most importantly, for all of our children so that they can make the choice to stay here. We have seen in years gone by that choice has not always been available to Saskatchewan people, and they have had to leave. They have had to leave for generations because of reckless governments, I would say, that were focused not so much on attracting that investment and creating that opportunity that comes from private sector investment, but essentially governing on policies that would create an environment that results in decline, loss, and closures. Decline of our population, loss of our children, and closures of schools and hospitals across this province. That's the NDP's record, but I would put forward with $3 billion in an uncosted, reckless, irresponsible platform, of which they are not being honest with the people of Saskatchewan on where that $3 billion is coming from. That not only is decline, loss, and closure the NDP record, but it's their plan moving forward. And so this makes the choice on October 28th so very important. Not just to the people of Prince Albert and surrounding area, but so very important to everyone that lives in the province of Saskatchewan as to what do you want the next 4 years in our future to look like in this province? Do you want a future where we are creating opportunity for a brighter future for our children, or do you want a future that looks like we're going to be closing hospitals and schools and not investing in that very bright future, which is our children?
Let's go up the path a little bit. A report came out yesterday from the BC Humanitarian Group talking about the Lord's Prayer being said in a number of city councils across this board. They named PA was one of them. Just wondering if you have a position on, and they call it unconstitutional. Just wondering if you have a position on.
I disagree. We say a prayer each and every day in the legislature as well in this province. Many councils used to in school, actually, when I attended school many years ago in a public school. And I think it's important for people to not only have the opportunity to start their day or start their work day or whatever that is in praying to, and offering a blessing to whatever faith they are. This is an inclusive province. And this is a diverse province, and you're seeing that in communities right across Saskatchewan. And I think it's important for us to respect one another and respect that diversity, whether it be in our faith, whether it be in what we choose to do each and every day, but also respect the opportunities that we have to continue to be inclusive and diverse, and not judge people on their faith, not judge people for who they are, where they come from, or what they do in the day.
NDP typically has a lot of support in urban centres. I'm just wondering, why is it important for the Sask Party to have representation in both rural and urban?
Well, I disagree. I think the Saskatchewan Party also has significant support, not only in the rural areas and the northern areas of the province, but throughout our urban centres as well. Tim, you might comment a little bit on well, I'm surrounded by urban folks here today. And I live in the booming metropolis of Shelburne, which I also consider an urban centre, I suppose, to some degree. But we do have support across the province. However, this is an election where we are not only standing on the record that we have of attracting that investment and ensuring that we're investing in schools. 28 of them are under construction or planning today. Compare that to the record of the government previous. We have hospitals being invested in, most notably the Victoria Hospital in Prince Albert here, where you can see, and I encourage you to have a look at the 2 cranes that are operating there. We have a recreational facility here in Prince Albert. So Prince Albert is, I think, a shining beacon of what is happening more broadly across our province in the private and public sector investment on behalf of the people. That's only possible through a strong and growing economy. But I would open it up to my fellow candidates at the table, 2 running in Saskatoon, 1 running in Moose Jaw, which is similar size, but the mayor would be quick to point out, not quite as large as Prince Albert, but a similar size city. And as to what you're seeing and hearing in your conversations on the doors, and this is the important conversations, and I would say relative to the polls that might be coming out, these are the conversations that truly matter in an election campaign. So we'll maybe start with you, Bronwyn, and make our way through.
Well, I think that it's universal, whether it's rural or urban. People care about the economy. They care about affordability. And I find the argument very strong at the doors for what we stand for in that regard. And it's, biggest income tax cut since 2008 that'll help a family of 4 permanently over 4 years. $3,400 will help seniors, $3,100. People care about that. They care about what we've done on the not remitting the carbon tax on home heating because they care about fairness. They care that one part of the country was carved out and we got stuck with a policy that is unjust. And they care about their families. They care about active families, the active family benefit. They care about nuts and bolts, meat and potatoes issues, as everyone does. And I think what I hear a lot at the door is it's too risky to go tax and spend. We don't want ideological positioning. We don't want drug consumption sites in our neighborhoods. We're worried about crime. For the first time ever, really, in my constituency in Saskatoon, I hear a lot of concern about crime. And what we're talking about today, safer businesses, safer neighborhoods, where people feel that they don't, they are telling me that their bikes are stolen in the middle of the day outside businesses, that they don't feel they can take a stroller across the park anymore without feeling unsafe. Those are universal issues that have nothing to do with rural and urban, and any supposed divide, that's about everyone in the province. And it's resonating, and we have enormous positive messaging and an enormous momentum around positivity, and as opposed to negativity. And I think that we have a lot to do in the next 2 weeks, obviously, but certainly the urban centres they care about the same issues as we all do across the province.
Paul?
Thanks, Premier. I'm hearing very similar to what Bronwyn is hearing about safe communities. We're hearing about healthcare, education, something that is very typical. As Premier and I, this is our 4th election. We've heard about some of the challenges, but what I'm also hearing about is some of the successes, the new schools that we've built, the healthcare facilities that are expanded or new. What I'm hearing is a lot of positive from our surgical initiatives, from some of our educational initiatives. I'm hearing very positive feedback in the constituency that I represent and other areas of the province that I've been able to knock in. People are very optimistic about Saskatchewan. They like the stability of the Saskatchewan Party. They don't like the radical ideas that are being proposed by the opposition. They want to be able to grow our economy so we can pay for the services that Saskatchewan people expect. So I'm hearing lots of optimism. I'm hearing encouragement on the doors. And what I'm frankly hearing is, don't let those guys get back in.
Tim?
Yeah, I would say Saskatchewan is a diverse province, not just ethnically, but also the rural-urban diversity that we see. And with 2 parties that can form government, one party being the Saskatchewan Party, is investing across that diversity in the rural and in the urban. We see new schools being built in our rural communities as well as our urban communities. We see new hospitals being built in our rural communities and our urban communities, long-term care centers, health centers. The NDP have a history of closing all of those in our rural communities, and much like the federal Liberal NDP coalition would do what they do to the expense of Western Canada, we'll see the NDP do what they do to the expense of our rural communities in Saskatchewan. The Saskatchewan Party will continue to build and grow across the province, not just in our urban centres.
And I would just say, with respect to government and opposition, with the records we have, and we'll stand on our record, and we'll point out the flaws in the NDP record and their stance as well, whether it be in community safety or what that might be. But we're all imperfect people. And we have been imperfect as a government, as the opposition has been imperfect as an opposition as well. But we most certainly endeavor to have the conversations with Saskatchewan people, whether it be an election campaign on the doorsteps or whether it be, as we've been had the honor of governing the last number of years with people across the province, to ensure that we're bringing forward the policy, and yes, changing the policy when it needs to be changed. Case in point is today committing to changing the Safer Communities and Neighbourhoods Act to address some of the challenges that Mayor Dion and other leaders across, police chiefs as well, have said needs to morph with the challenges that we're seeing in our community. And so we most certainly will endeavor to continue to listen to Saskatchewan people. And October the 28th is about a choice. It's about a choice that Saskatchewan people will make collectively on what the future of the province will look like. And the option and the value proposition that we are putting before those very people of this province is that we strongly believe that a strong, growing, and vibrant economy will create the opportunity for a brighter future for us, not just in the next 4 years, but for years and decades into the future. We're seeing that on full display with the public and private investment in this community throughout the northern part of our province, but I would say even more so across the province with in the mining sector, in the value-added agriculture sector. And then we're seeing that public investment come behind in not just infrastructure with those 28 schools and a number of hospitals, but in investing in community safety in an unprecedented fashion with over 500 police officers being provided since 2011. And in the case of the municipal police officers, fully funded by the province, which is much different than the previous cost share that we have. So, I think you had a question here.
Yeah, I have some questions that were sent to me from Saskatoon. Would your government consider changing the SIS program so that landlords are directly paid for rent or utility costs?
That's already available to clients. They are able to direct the rental part of their assist plan to landlords. It's available, and there's navigators that can help that. And Paul, you might have a little bit more detail on that.
Yeah, it certainly is. There's a guardianship that can be allowed for specific people that are having some challenges. Social services will work with those individuals to be able to set up a payment plan. They will also can be the guardian and make those payments on behalf of the individual. So there is that option. We've always had that option available, but we want to make sure that we're allowing individuals the opportunity to be able to manage the money that they are allocated by the government. If they need assistance, that is available through social services.
And that program was brought about, remember, by recommendations by a number of folks and organizations to limit or enhance the opportunity for people that may be receiving income assistance to earn more dollars before some of those income assistance dollars were removed. That's why the changes were made in that program, was to provide an opportunity to what even Lauren Calvert has admitted is a temporary assistance program. It was designed to be a temporary assistance program so that people can transition back into being independent and in the workforce. And so what the changes that were made to that program were to provide an opportunity for people to earn more before their income assistance might be impacted. And the opportunity to have dollars directly transferred to whoever they might be renting their home from is still there and available like it has been.
And I do have a follow-up. Would your government consider raising the amount that people receive through SIS?
Always in those discussions as well, and we know the inflationary pressures that all families are receiving, not just those on income assistance, but all families across the province. That's why you saw in the first week of this campaign a significant focus on affordability for everyone in the province, whether it be seniors, whether it be families, whether it be children, whatever that might be. Now we will have, one of, if not the highest threshold for when a family might start to pay tax in the province of Saskatchewan. fact, under the NDP, when you made it $26,000 in earned dollars, you started to pay tax. Today, a family of four isn't going to start paying provincial income tax until the $72,000 threshold. That impacts not only those that might be have some degree of income assistance, but all, I think, of those low-income earners in the province. And that's how we should be structuring the programs, not only the income tax structure that we have in this province, but structuring all of the programs is to ensure that we're providing that very opportunity for people to achieve all that they aspire to. And that is why the changes to the income assistance program were made. And that's why when you look at the affordability measures that were put in place as a campaign platform by this party last week, they build on already existing opportunities that we have put in place as we had the honor to govern. For example, the decision that we made in 2008 to increase the threshold on where folks would pay income tax in Saskatchewan, individuals and families. We removed 112,000 people from the provincial tax roll back at that date. 54,000 people now will be added to that if we are able to form government on behalf of Saskatchewan people and move forward with the commitments we made last week. 166,000 people in told that paid income tax under an NDP government will not be paying income tax under a Saskatchewan Party. That is the difference, and that is the choice that Saskatchewan people have on October the 28th. The choice between a party, an NDP party that will, their record and their plan is centered around decline of our communities, loss of our children, and closure of our schools and our hospitals, versus a Saskatchewan Party that believes a strong economy is going to provide an opportunity for a brighter future for everyone.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Nigel.